Hey everyone, welcome to the setup video for the Barrels Pack PBR. This series can also be used as a general intro into the workflow of the Infinity PBR models. If you've just gotten the barrels and you're checking this out, head over to infinitypbr.com and you can see all of our characters here, including the Dungeon Pack PBR. Barrels is kind of part of that, but it's a free intro or free part of it, so you can use it in any of your projects. So I want to go over all the different ways you can actually set up the project and manage and customize these textures. The barrels come with 4 textures already, and we've got over here default 1, this is default 2, and these are the new alternative A and B. And each one can be customized to an insane degree. So your project is going to have less options here, but you're going to navigate towards the customized materials and the barrels right here. And we'll start with barrel 1 as the simple one. This is this one over here. And if you look in the inspector when you have this material selected, this is a substance material, an SBSAR file, .sbsar, and it comes from Algorithmic Substance Designer. And it allows you to customize all these different things inside the editor and then export them to game-ready files. So one thing to note is that while many substances can be used at runtime, these are not meant to be used at runtime. There's a lot going on here with all these options, and I designed it to allow you to manage it in the editor, but that's it. So let's just go ahead and start. We're going to enable texture modification by clicking that into the main section, and then if we go to the wood, you'll see these options, and some are quite obvious here, the hue, and you can just use that slider. This is a graphics heavy process, so if your graphics card is slower, this will take a little bit to run through. You've got the hue, so you can just change the hue of the barrels a little bit. You can also change the saturation on them. So you can change the amount right there, and you got the lightness as well. You notice this is only affecting the wood. So that's one of the beauty of substances. I can separate different parts of the barrel, and we can modify those by itself. Let me focus the camera on this. There we go. So now we can go around it and see all around it. Go back to our material here. We also have our contrast. So you bring the contrast up and down. At the extremes, they go black and white, of course. But this can add a slightly different look depending on what you're going for. We also have, let me straighten these back out, this overlay color. Now, the overlay color is a flat color that you can just blend on top. So if you're looking for a more cartoonish look, you can, bring this on and get a more flat look out of it. And then you can also blend it down a little bit so you can get some of the original texture back into it. You can bring the AO up and down on that overlay, so you can remove the ambient occlusion if you'd like. And then we also have the roughness shift. This will make it less and more reflective. So here we bring the roughness down, and less rough means more shiny. So you can see the shiny sun off of it there. We bring that up, and it goes back to normal. So we'll work on these custom texture things in a bit because there's more you can do with it. So there's the wood there, and we'll just look at the metal real quick as well. Since we're here, you've got the same options with the hue, saturation, and the lightness. So you can change the metal around like that. You can of course adjust the contrast as well. And then add an overlay color. We got yellow selected here. You can bring that up and you can add the yellow color. So if you wanted to just quickly make this, a more brass color or something, bring up the saturation a little bit and find the right hue for this little copperish, goldish color. Maybe bring the contrast up a little bit and maybe play with the lightness. And then you can of course adjust the roughness as well if you want that to be a little bit more shiny. There you go. So now you've got a more new look or shiny look for the metal. So there's a lot you can do with just that. I'll go ahead and kind of reset these. If you ever want to reset the entire thing, just go up here to the top right, click this reset button. It'll take just a minute, but everything will get reset. And then you'll have to make sure to enable texture modification again. And so you can do the same thing with the bolts, but now we also have this ground dirt. This has its own enable toggle right there. So ground dirt is exactly what you might expect it to be. It's dirt that comes up from the ground, and with the slider you can just raise it up and down. And you've got options for the level, which makes it more thick and less thick, so that it works kind of in conjunction with the height. And also the contrast. If you bring the contrast down, then the dirt will be a little bit more muted, and there will be a little bit more fade. Currently the dirt has roughness really low, so let's raise that up. Dirt shouldn't be too shiny, so we're going to keep the roughness up around 0.8, give or take. And then if you want, you can also change the color. This is my favorite dirt color. And then, so now you got dirt on the bottom, and you can easily see the difference between turning that on and off. I generally like to have my dirt to be less level, less contrast, and then the height as, to taste. You can also say whether it masks metal, so let's bring the levels up a little bit and the contrast up a little bit. We're also going to make it something obnoxious color, so we can really see where it's at. There we go. And so if we say it masks the metal, then any metal part will no longer be metal, and now it'll be a dirt. So generally you want to do that. If there was any emissive or opacity, then we could cover those as well. It doesn't matter in this one. So sealing dirt's very similar. It goes from the top. So that's an option if you want to bring up the level a lot and contrast a lot and bring the height down. Perhaps it would look like paint coming out. Again, you can adjust the roughness as you see fit. Change the color around a little bit. Maybe make it some green paint. So now you've got a barrel that looks like that. So there's options that you can do with that, and we can turn those both off just by disabling those toggles. We got surface dirt as well. Now surface dirt's a little hard to see when it's a dirt color, so I'm going to make it an obnoxious pink. And then we're going to bring that edge dirt up, and edge dirt will come out from the middle out of all the edges. You'll see that there. And so we'll bring that to something that makes sense. You can adjust the contrast of that and the amount of dirt as well. Not too much, clearly. Alright. Somewhere about there is good. You also have this grunge amount, so you can play with that to suit your needs. And again, we're not going to keep it pink, but it's good to see it now just to see what we're working with. And the contrast, edge masking, again the roughness, we'll bring that up. And then we'll use our dirt color, and we'll say it masks metal. And then toggle this to see the difference between off and on. So that's just a little more character to the barrel. I'm going to actually turn the ground dirt back on as well, and we'll put more to my taste, bring the contrast down, level down a little bit. There we go. And next, directional dirt, just like the others, but in this one you can actually choose which direction it goes at, so you can choose to go from one direction or the other. So there's some options there if that suits your needs. We also have damage. So the damage here, this is a slider of whether it's going to do only the metal or not. If it's all the way up at 1, it will. All the way up at 0, it's everything. Let's bring the wear up, and we should start seeing that. And I like to bring the lightness up pretty high to see where the wear is going to be affecting. And then we'll bring that down in a bit. So let's bring the contrast up. You can play with that. Okay, there we go. Bring it down a little bit. And here we can see if we bring this up, then it'll only affect metal versus not metal. But of course, keep in mind that the dirt is masking out metal values. So bring up this notch level a little bit. These are more subtle looks. Okay, and then once you have a look that kind of works for you, you'll bring the contrast back up. Oops, not that. And bring the level up a little bit. Okay, contrast too much, I suppose. Alright, then we can bring this lightness back down a little bit. And maybe we'll bring the saturation up. Make that extra saturated, and then we can make it more shiny. And maybe add some grunge amount. There we go. Now let's bring the lightness. Oops. Lightness. Let's bring that back a little bit so it's not so. So saturation up a little bit. All right, and then if you toggle that off and on, you can see the difference we've made there. That's a pretty substantial difference, and it definitely gives a different look to the barrel. Fabric wearing is of course meant for fabric, but we can also use it to produce some interesting effects here. You can add some dust. Adds dust to the top of the barrel. So even though it's not fabric, you can get that nice dust layer. You could add some general dirtiness. Again, just slide that back and forth to see the difference. Edges wearing. Some of these will have more effect than others. Used value. Now this is of course supposed to be for fabric, so if you bring that used value up, it's going to change it as if it was fabric. So generally you probably wouldn't use that for this. But there could be some cases where, you know, if you think this look is what you're going for, then hey, that's cool. Who am I to stop you? We got some age, again, meant for fabric, so it's going to be a slightly different look than what you might expect. If it works, it works. And some other options there as well. And of course, as always, click on and off the toggle so you can see the difference. So we'll keep that on. I kind of like the dust for sure. Alright, same deal with the leather weathering. There's just some options here. Another dust option, dirtiness. It's got the same things, but it's for leather. So let's just turn that off for now. And then metal weathering. And we'll keep this on just the metal. We're going to increase the edge wariness right here and see if we can't. Oops, too much paint peeling. You don't need that much paint peeling. There's really no paint on this, but the effect is, you know, you can kind of see it's how it works. The rune will allow you to use a custom map if you add it to the custom mask right here, a black and white mask. Use the UV, but like if you put a tag up here, you can use a custom mask to add a image right here or a symbol or something like that. Enabling this, you've got some default settings, or if you use custom material here, you can use a custom material. And then finally, we have these custom wood, custom metal, custom bolt options. So in step 2, we're going to figure out how to change those. But let me finish up step 1 here by exporting this texture. Okay, we're going to go up here and we're going to use the new Substance Mask Exporter. We're going to load the texture exporter window. Bring that down here. So now this is a beta version of my new workflow, and this will export this texture into a game-ready material. So it has all 4 set. So what I'm going to do is kind of modify the rest a little bit, and then we'll export them. I'm going to speed through the video, but as before I start, I want to show you the alt here. The alternate versions, these are new. If you've gotten the barrel before, the new ones have this special damage blend slider. So you can slide between a new and a damaged barrel. These are both hand painted. Oops, is the height up? Yeah, height down, there you go. Both of these are hand painted in Substance Painter. There will be a tutorial on how to use Substance Painter to create your own. The files are included with the package. And so you can create your own looks as well. Both of these alt versions have sliders for the damage blend, and so you can see the difference here between the damaged and the new, and sliding between the two to get a slightly damaged look or whatnot that works for your game. And of course, with that, you still have the ability to change the hue, saturation, all that. Just keep in mind that if you change the hue of the metal, it will change the hue of the rust as well. So the order of these processes matter. So we'll keep that up and keep the damage blend up on both of these, and I'll make some quick modifications to barrel number 2, and then we'll export those. So let me speed up the video for a minute. Alright, so now we've got 4 new looks that we've created using the inspector here. So this is pre-populated for you, and there's a few options here. This first, and in case this is not preloaded, you're going to want to use this barrels object. And you can create new objects. Just go up here and create a new export object, and it will create one for you. And then you can populate with the whatever substances you want to export at once. It's a batch exporter. So if you only want to export one, you could simply go, and you don't want to remove this, you can go to mass exporter, create export object, and we'll just call this, once we're able to, we'll call it barrel 1 default, and then we can go into find our procedural material again, which is in barrels. There we go. Go right here, and you can either use this right up here, include selected material, or just select that, hit the hotkey, and it'll load it for you. So let's load up the barrels again. Just drag that down here, or click here and choose it from the list. And so we're going to call this barrels demo. Whoops, I'll spell it right. And the options up here is to set normal map mode. For anytime you want to use it in-game, you'll want to keep that selected. We do want to create materials. Again, we want to keep it in-game. And to save on disk space, we're going to convert it to PNG. It takes a slightly longer time to export, but then we don't have to do that step manually, and that's super helpful. This warning is telling me that not all generate all outputs are selected. That's important, so I'm going to click this to turn generate all outputs on for all of these materials. Now, since this is in beta, the big issue here is that when you start getting more than like 8 to 10 materials attached, the RAM usage goes up tremendously. I'm not yet sure why. So now we're going to go down and see our texture output options. This will list all the outputs available. If generate all outputs isn't set, then this won't be fully populated. Choose the ones you want. In this case, we can use our albedo opacity, normal map, ambient occlusion, and our metallic roughness map. Deselect the ones you don't want to save. And then if you are just changing the color of the barrels without changing the reflectiveness or the dirtiness or anything like that, then you can reuse the textures from the first bake, from the first export, and that'll save on disk space, and you'll only get a new albedo opacity map perhaps if you reuse all these other textures. In this case though, we're not going to do that. This is the first export, so it doesn't really matter. When you're ready to export, just click this export and just wait a couple minutes while the process finishes. Alright, the process is done. I should point out that on each of these materials, if you go up here and to the right, you can actually click this export bitmaps. Either of these really will work, and that will export the bitmaps into textures you can use. It won't, however, create the material or convert to PNG or set the normal map mode or even populate the materials. So now we go up here to our exported materials under the SFA Studios folder. We got the barrels demo, and as you can see here, we have all of our materials. You can bring that, this one, you see it's the same look. Barrel 1 right here, and barrel 2, you can see all that. So these are game ready. You've got the textures right here, and if you reveal this on our computer, in find their PNGs, which are only 5.7 megs instead of something like 16 megabytes for these files. And of course, the normal map is set to a normal map mode. So it's game ready, completely ready to go, which is really cool. And then you can bring this folder wherever you want. For this case, I'm going to bring this to the game ready files under the Darkstone default. Materials and textures. We'll change this or add this to the barrels. So now you'll find it in the barrels demo. You'll also find the default already populated for you to go right ahead, and then in the prefab section here, you'll find these prefabs ready to go. So you can just drag these out and use them in your game. So that's pretty sweet. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to reset these textures, and in the next video we'll go over using custom materials to replace the wood or the metal completely with a brand new PBR material, of which those are included. So that's kind of cool. So watch the next video.